recording up and going, and then yeah, you wanted to go over like settings and whatnot, specifically
Yeah.
on Mercy here. All right, you're watching the stream. Yep, I see that. So on Mercy, pretty much right, you got hero specific abilities, settings. You have a couple different ones that we want to kind of take a look at. First, there's toggle beam connection. I would probably recommend having that off. Having it on can make it a little bit more sluggish when you're kind of going on and off. That's just going to be the difference between holding down the button or just tapping on, tapping off with your beam.
Okay.
So
Toggle beam connection.
yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and switch that off real quick.
yeah,
And
that
then
that will just
my
make for easier swaps between people.
okay, my sensitivity I have on my controller is pretty much about 80 on the horizontal and about 80 on the vertical sensitivity too.
So
My Guardian 8. Go ahead.
yeah, so give me a little bit more of a frame of reference because I don't play console. Is that on a scale of 100? Or
Yes.
yes, okay, so that would be on the higher end. And if you're playing Mercy, that probably wouldn't be too much of an issue at all, just because you're
Okay.
not needing pixel perfect accuracy in any sense. So that yeah, honestly, when it comes to sensitivity, you're not really going to. It's not when you're playing characters that don't require aim. It's not going to be a massive deal one way or the other.
Okay.
Yep.
All
Go.
right. Uh,
Mhm.
the Guardian Angel target priority, I have it as prefer facing target.
Yes, so it should be okay. Let's see. So facing, because I haven't been on this account in a little bit. So prefer beam target, prefer facing target, prefer target. Yeah, so facing target, that's the new one, right? Where it's kind of the mix between both of them. So yep, that should
Hybrid.
be. Yeah, so it's the hybrid one. Yep, that's the best.
Okay. And then
Yep.
the toggle Guardian Angel, I have that on.
Okay, toggle guardian angel. Let's see. That means that essentially when you are flying around between people you press the button and it will fly, and to cancel you press the button a second time.
Yes.
Having that off would mean that to go to somebody you hold the button down, and then if you want to cancel you let the button go. That one
Okay.
isn't as big of a deal whichever way you go, because you typically don't need to be making as fast as swaps as with like your beam, where you can be swapping between a bunch of people really fast. But
Okay.
that one doesn't matter as much. I personally have a preference for off because I just like I'm never usually a fan of toggle. I like holding my
Okay.
buttons down. But I wouldn't see
Sure.
an issue with either way you went.
Okay. And between them both, it kind of sounds like the toggle beam connection is going to be the more important on that one to try to focus and practice with more, right?
Yeah, it's really that's
Okay.
the one because it's just gonna allow you to swap between people faster because it's the difference between pressing the button once and pressing the button twice per person.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
And then the last thing that I had set up on there too was beam sensitivity, and I have that one
Yes.
currently at 75.
All right, that isn't too bad. You might be able to lower that like a hair. But between like depending on like how comfortable you are with aiming, between like 50 to 80 is perfectly fine.
Okay.
Um,
I
so
have noticed that sometimes too, like whenever we're in the middle of a choke point, like in a hallway or something, and if we've got like 2 or 3 people together, it's not uncommon to have 2 people like pretty full health and then one person in critical. I have noticed it's difficult trying to get the
yeah.
settings on there to heal that one, but I didn't know if there's anything I can do for
Mhm.
that or just wait
That
for
would
everyone else to kind of start moving.
Yeah, well, that would be beam sensitivity and lowering that just slightly more. You don't want to go too low with it because then that means that it's going to be difficult to heal people, right? Because you have to be aiming
Okay.
at them. But so if you're comfortable with getting your beam on them, you could try lowering it a little bit more. See,
Okay.
maybe try like 60 or so. See how that works for you. And then that can make it a little bit easier to pick people out in a crowd. It might be something subtle that you don't really notice like all the
Okay.
time because it's it'll come up once in a while.
Sure
Um,
thing. I'll go
Guardian
ahead and
Angel,
just adjust it to 60
yeah.
and see how that works out.
Guardian Angel sensitivity. That one doesn't need to be as low because typically if you're flying somewhere, it does. You're going to be going in the same direction anyways, but you do still want it down a little bit. So if that's still at 100, I might recommend putting it to like I don't know 70 or so, something around that,
Okay.
75 if
Yeah,
you haven't.
I had it set to 100, so I'll go ahead and try it down for the
Yeah.
70 for this week.
Just might make it a bit easier, like if you're if somebody's close and somebody's far and you're trying to fly to the far person, that sort of thing.
Okay. All right.
Um, I think that is mostly, that's it in just the Mercy settings. Is there anything else?
No, no, that should be it. I've got a couple of other call out stuff. I might get your
Mhm.
advice on towards the end of the game, though,
Sure.
or the end of the
Okay.
session.
Sounds good. Well, then why don't we go ahead and get started? It'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so right now we're kind of watching this left side. There shouldn't be a major necessity for us to keep checking this left side every 2 seconds. For kind of two reasons. Firstly, because the game just started and they wouldn't have nobody has that high of mobility as to already be down this corridor instantaneously.
Okay.
That's one thing of note, is that there's kind of nobody's gonna be able to be here already.
Sure.
Secondly, you probably want to, when it comes to flanks, right? You definitely can check flanks if you're expecting somebody to be coming around. But the other thing you can do is kind of put your trying to think of the word for it here. You can put that part of your attention onto your audio awareness and try to listen for footsteps and people coming by, so that you don't have to check every 2 seconds. And then that can up your awareness of your surroundings, particularly as of the moment. There's two important things or I guess more like three important things that we need to be aware of. Firstly, Ana dies, and we can definitely 100% go for that res, because Ana's most certainly safe from enemies here if we are using cover. So definitely
Hey,
that would be
real
their high value. Good.
real quick, while it's still at the beginning of the game and while I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it, for my volume settings I have right now, I've turned the music all the way down to like
Mm-hmm.
11. I've got the in-game voice volume at 100. I've got sound effects volume at 100, and then master volume at 100
Yeah.
too.
I
Should
mean,
I
that's
adjust one of those?
no, that sounds fine. If you feel like people are
Okay.
talking a little bit too loudly and they're like talking over in-game sounds, then maybe you could lower that slightly, but that shouldn't be that sounds fine with
Okay.
me. Now one thing also to check is to make sure that your headset has surround sound enabled, and if it doesn't, I may recommend getting a headset with surround sound, as that
Okay.
can mean the difference between hearing everything coming from two directions versus coming from direct, surrounding you. So that can give you a lot more audio awareness.
Okay. I'll go ahead and switch my audio mix on here from studio reference, which is I think the default. I'll just go ahead and
Mhm.
put the headphones on there.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right.
All right. All right. So here, Anna definitely could go for the res. We also, because Anna's dead, we probably want to be leaving the Widowmaker and going and healing Orisa and McCree, both of whom are critical HP, but we're kind of sticking on our Widow.
And I can't hear what's going on your stuff, but you can kind of hear like the call outs that I'm doing on there too in the in-game
No,
audio.
no. Replays don't record in-game audio at all.
Oh, well, but whenever I press like the L3 button, it does like that the call out. I kind of hot set it towards like I need help, I need help, I need
Oh,
help.
yep,
Usually
yep.
I'll try to. Okay, good deal.
Yes. Yep.
That's usually one thing I'll try to do, at least if I am going to be
Mm-hmm.
trying to pocket someone or be close to them. If I am keeping an eye on stuff, it just is like an alert for it too.
Yep. All right. So this is something. So right now I'm noticing a lot of awareness problems. And awareness is just as a general category, it's just us knowing what the heck is going on around us, and then that information, it's like information collecting, and then us having that information is super important, right? Like for example, here we see that, three people on our screen and two of them are critical, and yet we're healing the person who's full HP, right? And that's an
Yeah.
awareness issue. Watching health bars, and we'll definitely dive more into awareness as a whole. But I'm noticing a lot of awareness issues. The first thing I would say is don't stare at the person you're pocketing. Right? You don't want
Okay.
to stare at the person you're pocketing, because you can see all of the info you need to see, such as their health bar and where they're at, based off of where beam's going, and then also the underneath your crosshair there you have their health bar, right? So that's most of the information you need to know. Now that's not to say you can never glance at them or something like that, but that's basically you don't want to just walk around doing this and just staring at your pocket, staring at your pocket, staring
Yeah,
at your pocket.
because
Yep.
I think if from what happened on that one too, whenever the Widowmaker ran off too, whenever I did
Mhm.
that call out for it, I think I tried to do the Guardian Angel from there, and then once I was trying to or descend down to the ground floor, trying to figure out where the safest spot to be would
Mhm.
be, and just kind of make it from there. But I do agree with as
Yeah.
far as the positioning goes on that and the awareness, I wasn't really sure where to be sticking at.
Yeah, and it's
In general,
good.
like on this stage too, like right where I was setting at earlier, and I was trying to pocket the widow up
Mhm.
there at the top. Was that generally probably not going to be the best spot for me? Should I
That
try to hang out like somewhere in the middle, like right where the is that's not an Anna or the Widowmaker is currently underneath the statue? Is that usually somewhere better for me to wait around, like to
that
be
would
with
be
the team?
fine. Honestly, either or. I mean, it maybe if you wanted to do something like this and stand up on the statue, that would mean that you could get the Widowmaker and other people more easily. So that would
Okay,
definitely be an option. I don't think the Widowmaker being up here with Widowmaker to start is a bad option, but you don't want to be all the way over. What you were doing was pocketing Widowmaker from back here, right? That's an issue.
okay,
You want to be essentially as Mercy, you want to be positioning yourself whenever possible, and it's not going to be insanely dangerous for you. You want to be positioning yourself to where you can see and heal as many people as possible at a moment's notice, right? So
okay,
if we're back here, the only person we can actually heal is the Widowmaker, and anybody else we're gonna have to go 1, 2, 3, and then peek and go over the rest. So it's 4 seconds. Or if we fly, that might make it a little bit faster, but it's definitely much more difficult than if we were right here, and then we just
okay,
peek and then and heal people up. Um, if we're over here, that would be okay too. So, but it's mainly just making sure you're closer to the
okay.
majority of your team. Yep.
Plus, I guess also if I do wind up trying to stick somewhere like towards the middle of them, and there's people on the left and people on the right, it just gives me more opportunities to be able to Guardian Angel in case someone does wind up
Yep.
flanking me, right?
Yep. Correct.
Okay, so benefits for everyone.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, definitely. So make sure you're watching, not staring at the person you're pocketing. Look around at other, just at your surroundings, right? So that's the first step, for awareness is looking. And then we might also go over some more stuff too. Uh oh.
I just want to get out of that area and try to escape
Mhm.
from that Moira right there.
Yep, that's very fair. Right now we're just kind of getting out. Okay. Other thing I'd mention is notice how your crosshair is kind of angled downwards. Watch
Hmm.
looking down as this can once again kind of camera angle. It can be a thing that impacts your awareness. So when we're angled down like this, we're not going to be able to see up in the sky, which that can impact our ability to see high grounds. Like look at the difference between this. If I'm like looking down here, look how I can't see those high grounds versus if I'm looking straight forward, so now I can see those high grounds. Additionally,
Okay.
what are their DPS at the moment?
I think the other DPS that we had on here was a McCree, if I'm not mistaken.
Their DPS on the enemy team.
Oh, their DPS? I know one of them was a Farah, but I didn't check to see what the other ones were. So it looks
Hmm.
like if I'm looking on the screen now, it looks like they had a Bastion in there, and also a I forget the one that can
Echo.
fly over there. Echo, yeah.
Yep. So them being on two flying characters, once again, if we're looking at the ground, we're not going to be able to see the flying characters, right? Because they're up in the sky. So that overall, just look straight forwards rather than down at the ground. That can help a little bit too.
Okay.
Okay, another minor thing right now we're mentioning, a couple minor things. Watch spam jumping. That's just when you go jump, 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 jump. This can actually make it easy for you to get headshot because it's a very trackable animation. Now, at this rank, it would almost certainly be an accident if they did headshot you
Yeah.
out of that, but it still is a good idea not to be in the habit of. It's nothing major. It's a minor point. But I
Okay.
wouldn't just spam jump. They can also mess with your movement as well. You might jump around a
Sure.
corner and not be able to stop
And
yourself. Mhm.
and with the Orisa going through there and just dying immediately, there probably wasn't much I could have done to try to
Nope.
help her out whenever she was going 1v4, right?
Nope. Correct. Not a
Okay.
lot you can do.
All right.
Yep. Watch health bars. So when McCree's just you can see his health bar on the screen, but then also right below your crosshair. So here we can probably heal him up a little bit, but we're sticking on damage.
I think probably what I was trying to do for muscle memory on that is just I've been trying to focus more on doing the
Mm,
DPS damage boosting on that, and
yep.
I was trying to get to the point where if I do see the critical stuff on there, just swap over to the healing beam because I know before I was being more of like a heal bot for a lot of
Mm,
stuff, so I have
yeah.
been trying to at least
So
get out of that.
So the balance you want to, and you're correct in that you don't want to just heal bot, right? A lot of mercies will just heal bot, and they will do what you call over healing, where you will heal when people are full HP. And that's not good. That's not what you want to do.
In
But
15 seconds, I've seen on some of your other videos, yeah.
yeah, yep. That's what other mercies will do. But there's also the flip side where you do want to be healing people when they're down HP. So, for example, there if
Especially when they're
McCree's
behind cover like this, right?
yeah, I mean, or even even if they're being shot at, like if McCree is down 60 HP, that's a little bit different than if McCree was full HP or if he was down 10 HP. You always want to prioritize healing over the damage boost. In I mean, sorry, in most cases, not all. Maybe if they're ulting
Okay.
or something like that, that might be a little bit different. But most of the time, healing comes as the priority over damage boost when they actually do need healing. And then when they don't need healing, then you can swap over to damage boost. So let's say McCree is full HP, or let's say he's only down like 10 HP, and the fight, he's in the middle of a fight. 10 HP in the middle of a fight might not matter too much, but 60 definitely does. That might mean the
Okay.
difference between McCree getting one tapped by a fire rocket or not getting one tapped by a fire rocket, right?
Okay. Makes
It
sense.
it'll definitely, like, 60 HP is definitely a big deal. So make sure that you're just healing people up when they're lower. You don't have to wait till critical. Critical is like low. You can probably do it more like when they're 80% low, right? Rather
Sure.
than like 30%, 40%.
Okay.
All right, and then here, for example, this is where we would swap back the damage boost because he's now full HP, and then healing at this point is what you would consider over healing because we're healing him when it's not going to do anything. It ends up wasting a lot of our time where we're doing nothing,
Yeah.
and then another character
And
is going to waste resources.
yeah, and where my
Mhm.
mind at was on this one. If you scroll back just like 5 seconds or so, you can kind of see that the Widowmaker up there. I saw that she was in the high ground, so this was one of the failed parts where I was trying to do the mercy jump, but I
Super jump.
couldn't quite get up there too.
Okay, sounds good. Are you
Have you
good?
played the Overwatch 2 beta yet?
I played mostly during the first one. I played a little bit during the second one, unfortunately, because I didn't want to spend 40 bucks on it, and I got it like
Sure.
I got access near the end.
Okay. I was going to ask too. I didn't know if you had a chance to see what the difference was on Mercy's super jump because I've heard they've
Yeah.
adjusted it and made it simpler, but I haven't heard or seen how
Yeah.
it plays
I'll
compared
have
to
to
this one.
I'll have to like just, go and mess around with that more when I go into
Okay.
it. From my understanding is that you don't have to, like, you're not going to have to hold control and shift to do it. You kind of fly, and then while you're flying, at any point, not when you're I think at any point you can press control, or
Okay.
sorry, oh my bad, I'm talking in PC terms. You press
No,
crouch.
I get what you're talking about because I know
Press
you're supposed
crouch.
to do that crouch just before you hit the
Yep.
Guardian Angel button, and then just I think hit the jump button like right as you're ascending. But if I'm being generous, I hit it like maybe once out of every 10 times.
Yeah.
If I go into the practice mode, I can kind of do that whenever it's just like a stationary
Mhm.
bot. But actually, in real game mode, I'm terrible at hitting that too.
Yeah. Honestly, at this point, it's not really worth going too much in depth on the how to do it since you will
Yeah.
have time to, since Overwatch 2 will
Okay.
change that up and make it easier and
Sure.
simpler. Um,
Okay.
but at the same time, yes, you fly to the person by pressing the fly button and your crouch button at the exact same time. You hold that down,
Hmm.
and then once you get on top of the person, you're pressing spacebar. Yep.
Okay. Cool. I'll have
Or
to try it out
or
whenever
jump
it comes out
button.
this week.
Sorry, my brain. All right. So yeah, we're trying to get up.
You needed a doctor? Damage boost engaged. Right beside you. Diva reporting in.
Okay. So kind of notice how we're keeping our camera focused on the Bastion again. Probably want to be
Red
just
on.
looking at other people. Okay, McCree died pretty far over to the side, I think. Yeah, he's like over here. So maybe not super worth trying to go get it.
Yeah, and I think the Bastion is about to head out here in just a minute, and I didn't feel safe going over in that area, so I tried to break apart and start looking for ways of escaping too, and just getting behind more of our incoming team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also kind of another thing I was wanting to try to figure out too. Like, when you play as Mercy, when do you make the decision to say, okay, I'm going to follow the DPS, I'm going to follow Genji, I'm going to follow McCree, versus saying, you know what, I don't agree with this. I want to get back to a safer area for it too, and help out other teammates
Yeah,
for
will
it, or
kind of depend.
prioritize my own
Will
life.
kind of depend on the situation. How good of a character are they to pocket, right? If you have a Tracer go off on a flank, probably not. Tracer's not a great Mercy. You can't really keep up with her super great because she of
Yeah,
all her blinks. Your damage boost is kind of okay with it. It's not wonderful with it. Tracer's not a great target, so it'll depend on
sure.
who you're going with. It might depend on, do they have their ultimate, right? Their ultimate will increase their value, might make it better for you to go flank with them.
Especially if they have like a Genji with like the or the blade together on that.
Yeah, something like that, or soldier with a visor, that sort of
Okay.
thing. Something that you can damage boost. That would also impact it. Does your team currently need you on the front line? So like if you leave, are there going to be people dying? Is there a res to go do? So if your team needs you, then you just probably want to stick with your team. If your whole team doesn't need you, right? And you're going to get value out of going with the pocket target, then go with the DPS, right? But if you feel as though you'd get more value by sticking with a team because somebody's low, two people are low, somebody needs a res, right? In that case, then you would swap over to just staying with the team.
Okay.
I'm taking heroes never die.
Okay, so let us see. This is another part of awareness, of paying attention to our environments, and essentially how to tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight. Now, this primarily will come down. That's loud for some reason. All right. This will primarily come down to the watching of kill feed, top right corner of your screen. But you're looking to see who's alive, who's dead. You can see that on your screen. You can listen to it. You can see it in tab. You can see it in kill feed. Kill feed's just the easiest place to see it. Right. When
Sure.
you are up or down 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage or a disadvantage. Now, Overwatch 2, I think this becomes slightly more skewed towards, so like being up, it's actually just slightly more powerful to be up people because there's less people in total. So Overwatch 2, take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. This might be more like maybe one person is an advantage or disadvantage. Then that in that case you get either aggressive or passive depending on if you're up or down people.
Sure.
Being up or down 2 to 3 people, that is a won fight or a lost fight, right? At
Okay.
that
This
point, you're good.
Yeah, at this point,
Mhm.
like what was going on in my mind too, I knew that the enemy team was advancing, and my priority was trying to keep myself alive. So as soon
Mhm.
as I got the valve on it, I just wanted to pop
Yep.
it so I could at least try to jump up a little bit more too.
Yeah.
So that may have been more of a selfish decision, but not something helping out the team. Whereas
Yeah.
if I may have just died with the rest of us and then try to use it when we have like 3 or 4 people together to benefit, right?
Yeah, it's never going to be worth it to use an ultimate to save yourself if the ultimate's not going to be useful in the fight.
Okay.
That's just wasting an ultimate, right? So because now, yes, we maybe say, firstly, I would say that you probably don't even need your ultimate to get out. You could probably have just walked backwards and flew to Sombra, so that's not even necessary to escape, right? Firstly, secondly, when you're down in this situation, when you're down 2 to 3 people, which here it's a 1, 2.5 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we are down 2.5 people, right? This is a lost fight. If in that case, if we pop ult, it does absolutely nothing because we're gonna lose anyways, right? So in that
Okay.
case, it's just a waste of an ultimate. Same thing if it goes the opposite direction. If we've already won the fight, so like Lucio here is actually wasting his ultimate, and Bastion, because they already won the fight, and yet their ulting was just as overkill. It's not gonna be necessary at all.
Yeah. And I can't remember on that one too, because I know it's
Mhm.
been about a week since I uploaded this one or sent it to you too. I
Mhm.
may have just been like instinct on that too, where if I heard the Bastion going to the Sentry mode on that, or if I heard the other one going to, thinking, okay, maybe I just need to use that hurry up for it too. I know a lot of times I never really start the fight off with the Valkyrie on that, and I'm usually more reactionary on that, or trying to
Mm.
wait if we've got like at least a group of people to kind of benefit from it too.
Yeah, and that's an important thing is to make sure you have a group of people. But that's having that group of people is indicative of the fact that you do have a actual fight versus just the fights being cleaned up. Right now, this isn't a fight. This is a
Sure.
lost fight. Right
Yeah.
now, I would maybe recommend slightly against the notion that Valk is a defensive ultimate because it's not, and it usually shouldn't be exclusively used reactionary because in a lot of cases, think through this, Valk just isn't going to be enough healing to sustain through most offensive ultimates, right? So think through Bastion. Bastion one taps through your ultimate. Pharah.
Hmm.
Pharah kills people through your ultimate anyways. Risabongo. Maybe that can help sustain through it. Same thing with Coalescence. Maybe. If Echo copies someone, she can probably go through your ult, right? Reaper can go through your ult. Genji can go through your ult. Pretty much all of the offensive ultimates can go through your ultimate. So therefore, it doesn't really act as a great defensive ultimate, and not in the same way that Lucio Beat or Zenyatta Trance or Baptiste Lamp do.
Okay.
So therefore, in a lot of cases, you're actually going to find a lot more value out of using your ultimate as an offensive ultimate, using it near the start of the fight, like
Hmm.
right after the fight starts, and using it for the damage boost purposes rather than the healing purposes, because then you're actually going to get a lot more value of trying to win the fight before they just pop all of their ultimates or get early value. Another kind of interesting way to think about it is just damage boost on a ton of people is super valuable. At least the last time I heard it, I'm not sure if these fight stats have been updated at all since, but this might be a little bit old. But at some point within the game's history, Orisa Bongo was the most powerful ultimate in the game and had the highest winning
Win rate, right?
fight stat. Yeah, highest fight winning
Yeah.
win rate out of every ultimate, and that just goes to show how valuable damage boost is. So
Okay.
in this case, definitely 100% not the play just because fight's already lost. Want to be watching kill
Sure.
feed, and it just
Um,
gets overused.
Speaking of which, for the amplified damage with
Mhm.
Mercy on her beam, do you know like how much of a percentage is that?
Mm,
Is that like 25% extra, 30%, somewhere around there?
I think it's around 30. I'm not great with the numbers. I
Okay.
can Google it in like 5 seconds. All
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
right, let's see. Mercy damage boost percentage 30%. Yep.
Okay. All right. Good deal.
All right.
Damage increase.
Yeah. Issue there was we kind of used our ult, and then they all saw that we came over here, and we kind of just hung around. So this is another part, is when you know that a fight is lost, you either get out, if possible, which there is very 100% certainly possible to escape, and if you don't think you can get out, then you let them kill you. Because the alternative
Okay.
is what you call staggering, which
Yeah,
is
you
what we
just don't
just did
want to be
there.
kind of like dragging the rest of the team behind for it, or just not having any value, and everyone else is dying on the front lines for them too.
Yeah, or like in this situation, staggering is basically just dying late. So now look how our entire team is, or most of our team is ready for a re-engage where we can probably contest. But now we're down 2 people, so we just died. We just
Okay.
died really late. Staggering could mean that, like, let's say our team's walking back from spawn, and then we die late. Well, now our team has a decision. They can either walk in without us, in which case they just are at a big disadvantage, or even could have lost the fight before it even starts. Or if they wait for us, we've just wasted a bunch of time, right?
Okay.
That can also start a stagger train, which you guys have pretty much been staggering most of this game so far. Like as a team,
Yeah.
you've been pretty much going in, and what happens is like 3 people will go in, they'll die. 2 people will go in, they'll die. 1 person will go in, they'll die, and it just keeps on repeating over and over again. And that's what you call a stagger train. And that's no good. That just means that you never get a full team fight in. You're never gonna be
Yeah.
able to stop them, and that can start when you're participating in it.
Sure, and especially at the kind of team levels I've been playing at too, where mostly everyone's going to be like bronze or silver, with the occasional like platinum, like one person or something like that too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. You should got peak performance level. Don't let up on them.
So far, also from like what you're seeing, am I at least mostly sticking to cover?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I haven't. I think that's been going pretty decent. I don't think that we've seen like a time yet that you've died from being out of cover. Though, do note that the better your opponents, the more they will punish you for a lack of cover. So it might just not. Be,
Okay.
I would say that in a lot of these cases, we might just not see you getting punished for lack of
Sure.
cover, which is why we're not going too much into it and whatnot, because it's not
Okay.
a necessity as of the current moment.
Sure.
But so far, in comparison to some other aspects of your kit, yep, it's doing pretty decent.
Okay. All right.
Here, this
I
week,
know I'm about to have a
yep.
death here in just a few minutes. I still don't know what happens, but I think I get booped off the edge, and I try to do what I can to at least heal out one of my other characters or one of the other teammates from below the stage, but just wind up dying on that too.
Oof. Oh, it's right here.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
don't know if something hit me or what happened.
Yeah, far boops you. All right, so here we're kind of backing out a little bit. So we see soldiers in the room, but we're like, okay, there's too many people here. I don't want to run with soldier in there, which is fine. That's respectable. Though it doesn't seem as though we're noticing the Zarias right next to us to maybe help, to be able
Yeah.
to like fly to her. That's a Farah boop right there that Farah boops us with. You can see
Okay, that's
that.
what it was then.
Yep.
All right, I thought I was just being careless there.
Nope.
But it goes back to the awareness, like what you said too.
Yep. So you can hear that. You can, also you don't usually just get just get launched off the edge, typically.
Sure. Yeah, I saw the Echo wind up hitting me with some stuff, but I didn't see what else it wound up getting me there too. Now, also too, if I did have my settings changed to prefer beam target, would that have made any difference on here too? Would I have been able to kind of help out the Zarya at that point a little bit more under the stage, or would it still
So
have got me the
no,
same spot?
so the hybrid is the exact same. Like you would essentially your beam, I believe, disengages from someone. I'm trying to think after like a second and a half, 3 seconds, something like maybe 3 seconds, something like that,
Okay.
where it'll go off and stop affecting them through the wall. I think we let go here because that's way too fast. Like if
Okay.
we let the beam stay on them, we probably could have flown a second time, which maybe
Mhm.
could have got kept us alive. But no, that wouldn't have changed.
Okay.
Whether we had the other beam on or
Okay.
not.
Yeah, I thought one of them did a little bit better if you had cover or if there was like no line of sight between you and your target for a bit, but I wasn't too sure of the
No,
details on
yeah,
it.
I mean, so it's that's when it came to the old, because the hybrid is the best of both worlds. The hybrid means that you can fly to people if your beam's on them, even if you're around that corner, right? But if you are looking at someone, then whoever you're looking at takes preference. So it's
Okay,
just a mix between the two. So the
sure thing.
hybrid perfectly fine there.
All right.
We make a great team. High fly activate.
Okay, so here, let's see, we're healing this Arya. I would probably go and fly over to point and then maybe use some cover on point, maybe get in here. This can probably make it so that if they keep on pressing, which as of the moment
With the Bastion in the Sentry mode right there, or the tank mode, I figured that would kind of like cut everyone else's options short if we're all kind of out there on that too.
I think that firstly, the thing is about to end soon, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that if you're in the middle flying, probably wouldn't be too dangerous.
Okay,
He would have to. It would just have to be a really excellent shot on his part
sure.
for you to die.
Honestly, too, like on this situation, like where everyone is like advancing on the team, the enemy Bastion is like right there for it too. They've kind of seen me already, so I'm trying to go back for cover. I kind of felt like this was already like a lost opportunity, but I didn't know if this was just because the enemy team was like so much better, or if this was because of a lack of something that I was doing at this point here too.
Yeah, well, I don't think this is necessarily a lost fight or off the bat. So here, we definitely want to be with the Roadhog. We kind of get off the Roadhog, let him get out of range, and then that means that we're stopped, not able to heal him. Possibly could have gone for a red. Oh, also want to be stalling out cart there. Make sure we're on cart. Make sure we're healing up the Roadhog. We probably back here if we even while Bastion was ulting, if we flew and then just ran into cover, we probably could have used cover to get a res, right?
Okay.
Noting that so far we've used only one res, and I've maybe seen like 2 missed opportunities for res opportunities. So make sure you're keeping your eye. I'll continue to point them out when we could go for reses, but res is gonna be super important.
So it kind of just sounds like a lot of it too. Well, maybe not a lot of it, but I need to try to be more aggressive in some of my plays on that too, and not just keep backing away. Then
and exactly. So the way to think about it, right, is that when it comes to the game, aggressive is the kind of the what you want to play. Aggressive is how you get value. The more you're doing, the more value you get. And passiveness comes when passiveness is a necessity. Passiveness comes when you are incapable of playing aggressive, and that will be situation to situation. Like if you are 1 HP, you are incapable of being aggressive. If you have 6 people staring at you and you're around the corner, you're incapable of getting aggressive. But if you have leeway, then you want to play aggressive because then that's how you get value. So going for, like, if you're always, the way to think about it as well, right, is that, like, you can be the most survivable person in the game and sit and spawn and never accomplish anything. Right.
Sure, which goes back to what my goals were too, to feel like you're having more impact on the game and helping to change the battle, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
But that also at the same time is not to say that I want you to run and die every single fight, because that would also impact your ability to get value if you're dead. So if you
sounds like it's kind of like a game sense thing then for it.
Yeah, you need to be able to tell when can I get aggro, when do I need to play passive. Right, and that will depend on largely it will depend on awareness of your surroundings. But then also you can play aggro and stay alive if you're doing things like using cover and using teammates properly. And
so just learn more of the game map. Just learn more of the game map then, and then like what obstacles or barriers are there to kind of give me some cover for that.
Yeah, and that's not something you necessarily even need to memorize. That's just looking down here and seeing, oh, there's a cart that I can use. Oh, there's an indoor little room back here, right? So if there's a room back here, I can fly over and use the room. And now you're much closer. You can get a res off. You're able to participate, that sort of thing. So yep. I do like that you're sticking with the DPS most of the time. That's good. You're kind of pocketing. You're picking out your pocket targets pretty solidly.
That was something that was really hard for me to try to get learning to, because I initially started on games like Team Fortress 2, and I always thought it was bad playing as the medic and just sticking with only one player on the team of 8, 9 people on that. So I always thought whenever you hear being a pocket Mercy or something like that, it was a bad idea. But then after kind of reading some of the Overwatch University threads and everything, no, that's what Mercy is supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That's been one of my hardest things, just trying to differentiate, when do I need to heal the team versus trying to be aggressive and just following forward with one of the DPSs too.
The way that I would think about it, because I'd say pocket is a deceptive. I mean, you hear me say that in my other coaching sessions.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. So yeah, I think pocket, just as the term, is deceptive in that it's non-descriptive, and people kind of take it however they want to take it. So, like you have heard me say, you want to think of it more as a default target, right?
If you've got nothing else to do, hey, let's go to this person then.
Yep, exactly. Right. Okay. You stick with them when there's nothing better to do, and then when there is something better to do, then that's going to be the thing that gets you more value. And that's what we were talking about before as well when it came to the flanking with them too.
Yeah, and a lot of my drive time, back and forth between jobs, or if I'm kind of waiting on stuff to happen, I'll usually kind of try to watch a few of your videos and just see if I can learn insights on some of my other characters I want to learn as too. So
cool, all right.
I'm here.
Okay.
Let me get you patched up. You Got this.
Get a little bit closer, right? There's no reason to be sitting back here when we could be up, up closer to these guys over here. That just
Okay.
makes for faster reaction times. It means that they can't just run out of your range super easily. It's gonna make it so that you can res faster. It's gonna, so oh yeah, yep, you do it. There you go. We're just sitting back a little bit long. Same here again. Where notice how we're just for some kind of unnecessarily we're putting like 10 meters between us and our teammates. Not necessary whatsoever. Whenever possible, be close to them. Now, if that's a dangerous place for you to be, then don't. But it's not dangerous because you have cover, right? Cover is going to make it so that you're not taking damage here. So you can be up here and by your teammates and be just faster and everything. Being able to react to anything needed, fly to anybody needed. But we're just
Sure.
putting ourselves a little far away.
Healing stream engaged.
And honestly, like right here too, I know you kind of said to try to focus a little bit more on the awareness. I really don't do good in like split-second decisions, and so like whenever everyone kind of starts branching off, I wasn't really too sure who to follow with, and it kind of gets hard trying to think who do I need to focus my beam target on.
Yeah.
Like right here, for example, I thought Roadhog would have the best chance of trying to have the survivability on that because he's got that health thing that he can do, and I saw him just get shot by the Hanzo and killed like basically in just one hit. So I was hoping I could at least kind of get off a res on that, maybe just try to use the steps as a little bit, but just didn't work out on this one either.
Yeah. So decision making, right? That essentially the more you know, the more you can plan ahead of time, the easier decision making becomes, right? Because
Okay.
it's always going to be superior to have that pre-plan versus coming in and trying to just react, because it's just going to make it much harder. So knowing kind of who you should be on and whatnot, it's going to make it easy. Going with Roadhog here, I mean, isn't the worst idea. I would probably say that you're still going to find. I mean, I don't know why your team is like literally across the map from each other. That's kind of weird.
Bronze and silver.
But yeah. But sticking on Soldier, honestly, going with like any of them would have been fine. To be honest,
Okay.
Zarya going in aggro here, that'd be okay. Soldier would be okay. Hog would be fine. The big thing I have here is the res, and why is this maybe not a good res?
Well, definitely because if the Hanzo was able to just kind of kill off the Roadhog in one volley on that stuff, I don't really have much I can do. If this was just like a split second, I didn't know if I could do it before the Hanzo noticed me or not, too.
Yeah. The main thing is just that, we have no way to get through this, and if Hans notices us, we're dead, right?
Yeah.
And we should assume that he notices us. You never want to just assume that he didn't notice you. If you were in his face, right? Maybe if we're behind him or something, but if we're in his face, we should assume that he noticed us and just try to run away.
And then after like replaying this video and trying to watch it again, I saw this and I thought, man, I don't know why I did that, but it was just a split second decision and I kind of committed to it. And like you said too, just being punished for some of that stuff too.
Yeah. Possibly could have gone better if we did like a super jump off of this, which I'm not sure if Overwatch 2 that would be any easier, but you could potentially jump up in the air while you res. That sort of thing.
Okay, because I was going to ask on that too. Like, how does that work with resing on the super jump? Like, if you wind up doing the res, and I thought if you got more than so many feet away from your target, I thought it would wind up canceling that. But if you're just staying in the same vicinity but jumping upwards, does that?
No, it does not change it. You just essentially you're doing a super jump where you're not going max height. You're doing kind of a low super jump. So it just gets you a bounce, and then you're not going all the way up into the sky. Because if you do that, you can go too high. But so maybe maybe you can try that out when Overwatch 2 rolls around. But like once again, we don't have to focus too much on super jumping if they're gonna change the whole mechanic in a couple days, anyways.
Yeah, I got you.
So the main thing is think through. Okay, do I have cover? Nope. And that's what you call eyeballing a res. Eyeballing, seeing can I do it? You've probably heard me discussing that, right? Do I have cover? Do I have teammates for protection? Nope. Do they know that I'm there? Yep. Do they is it like, can they even like reach me in time? Yep. Let's see what else other ones like. Do I have Valk? No. Yada yada yada. You can keep going with it a little bit. There's just a lot of different things to think through, and pretty much there's just nothing that lets us get away with it. So probably don't
Sure
want to go
thing.
for it. Don't want to try for it.
Yeah, normally on my default
Right inside.
stat process, or my default thinking process on this is usually at the start of the game. I'll try to go into my menu, try to find out who it looks like they have the highest rank. Are they playing DPS or are they tank? And that'll normally kind of make me decide if I want to try to stay together with that person. But that's usually who I'll kind of try to stick out with at the beginning, and then just kind of see where the rest of the game goes. Like
Mm.
this was the Roadhog from before, and I tried to follow him back out again too because I didn't know who else to go with. He winds up dying, and then I wind up getting killed in the hallway here too in just a second.
Yeah, so I would probably recommend going a little bit more for character pick over just how what's the rank of the person, unless there's a
Okay.
massive difference in ranking where you have a plat player versus a silver player, right, or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
unless there's a massive difference, I'd probably just go for who's the best character. Like for example, Soldier's going to be much better to pocket in this scenario than a
Sure.
Sigma would be. But if Sigma's
On
Mhm.
on Overwatch 2, doesn't it change up a little bit too, to where it's showing like the stats of all the characters, like how many deaths, how many kills they have, and things like that as well?
Yes, it will. It will show you all those stats, correct?
Okay.
And that, yeah, that yes, it will show you that. That won't necessarily be like 100% indicative of who you should be pocketing because there's still better pocket targets than others. Um,
Okay.
yeah, certain tanks might be a little bit better because it's higher damage and whatnot, but I'd still say most of the time DPS are the ones who are
Okay.
outputting the best, and they're the best to pocket. So DPS, and then even within among DPS, there's better pocket targets than others, right?
Okay.
Um, I don't know if we want to go over all of those. Might take a minute.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. Because I think a lot of times too, like whenever I start off, like from the beginning of a spawn point, I'm still trying to figure out like where the best point to go is, or whoever has the kind of like the most cover at that point too. So kind of goes back
Mhm.
to that game sense of trying to cover yourself and where can you give the most value to.
Mm. Here, really, only thing we can try to do is probably just get inside because if we got inside there, that probably hides us from Hanzo. But besides that, not much we can do after we don't get inside.
Let me get you patched up.
Right at that spot too, where we died to Sigma's ult on the enemy side for it too. If I was inside the building, if I get hit on the ceiling, am I going to take as much damage as if I was like all the way up as far as where our Sigma
Yes, you
was?
take the same
Okay.
damage anyways. Yep, but it would
Okay.
just mean that Hanzo now can't see you, and then you probably don't die because it only does half your health.
Okay. Is Hanzo what killed me, or was it the Sigma blast?
Hanzo shot you, and then therefore Sigma was able to kill you because, like I said, it
Gotcha.
does
Okay.
half of your health. So if Hanzo didn't
Mhm.
shoot you, you wouldn't have died.
Okay.
All right. So why don't we sum up a little bit here, right? Go over the main points, do a quick review, and wrap up from
Okay.
there. All right. So, ability usage, res, probably want to use that a bit more often, though when you do res, you just generally want to eyeball the bodies. Firstly, identify, hey, that's a dead person, right? There was a time, like with Ana at the start, where we just didn't even notice she was dead. Identify, okay, they're dead. Watch kill feed, listen to your surroundings, watch, that's part of awareness. And then see, can I go for it? Do I have cover? Do I have Valk? Do I, do yada yada yada? Can I get away with it, right? And then if that's not the case, don't try to go for it.
All right,
Overall,
so even if I
yeah.
did, even on that first part where I was holding on to the Widowmaker, even if I would have stayed on the bottom for it too, I still could have rezzed that Ana, which just goes back to that game sense, and just try, even if you're not in the ideal location for it, get to her as quickly as you can to just
Yeah,
have easy access to all your teammates. Then.
100%, because it's super high value. Like even if it's gonna take you 2 seconds, I mean, it probably if we just flew to Widowmaker, that takes to get to Anna's dead body. That's gonna take us 2-3 seconds, and then that's really res is really high value, right? Make sure you're just getting it out as often as you're able to, and then we can talk about the nuances of it at a later point. But it's just better that it's getting used than not getting used, right? Abilities that aren't used don't do anything, right? Flying, there's some things I don't think that we could definitely go into. I don't think we fully discussed flight. Definitely it'll change up the super jumping in Overwatch 2, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Overall, that probably went to about a medium priority for you to work on. Valk usage, don't use it in a won or lost fight. And then besides that, use it a bit more offensive rather than purely using it reactive defensively. Not to say that
Okay.
that's always a bad option. You know, sometimes if you're in the middle of a fight, you know, you're dodging a Genji blade, that's perfectly fine to do, right? So overall, that one is probably maybe like higher end of a low to medium priority. Just because we didn't see a ton of those. Beam usage, right? How you're using your beam. Make sure that you're not overhealing people. Make sure you're just thinking about who is the best pocket default targets. You're going to want to go for just the DPS in a lot of cases, and then remember they act as your default targets, right? You're with them whenever something else isn't needed. That'll apply when you're like flanking with people too, right? Let's see what else is there besides that. Yeah, prioritize healing when healing is needed, and then damage boost when the healing is not needed. Because sometimes we'd or that one time we kind of left them a little bit lower. Trying to think. I think that's
this is probably like a subjective question, and I know that it's going to be different depending on the ranks and everything that you go in with, but is Mercy going to be able to provide as much value to the team as some of the other support characters on there? Because I kind of feel like I have a lower skill ceiling compared to a lot of the other heroes, and that's pretty much solely just with my character playstyle. I know whenever I try to play out Baptiste, I know I kind of get just overwhelmed trying to think, where do I throw up the immortality field? How do I try to provide healing boost on that? With Ana, I know because she's got the sniper rifle, even with aim assist turned all the way up too, I have a very difficult time trying to get up in there. Moira, I know, is kind of more of another close range character, but I wasn't really too sure if I'm just like holding the team back because I'm not really switching away from her either. So I didn't know if I need to try to force myself to try to learn somebody a little bit more different too. But I kind of want to just get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, she's
not. I mostly play open queue.
Yeah, so she's not applicable in any and all circumstances, but Mercy is a very flexible character. And especially if you're playing an open queue where most people are picking DPS, she's actually probably going to be one of the best characters if you have multiple DPS characters, right? And then which then may swap in if they have open queue for Overwatch 2, they might swap to maybe people playing a lot of tank, since tank's probably going to be busted to have a ton of tanks. But in that case, you probably might find more value out of being on a different character for Overwatch 2 if you're doing open queue. I'm not sure, the meta kind of might change up a little bit. But overall, Mercy's a very flexible character, and you do see currently in Overwatch 1, you see a ton of top like one-trick Mercies in top 500. That's not a that's not a rarity.
Okay.
All right. Continuing on, that was probably beam usage. You know, maybe lower end of medium, something like that. Then you got your positioning. Just keep on using cover. Position yourself to where you're in the middle of as many teammates as possible, right? So that means don't be all the way over here where you can only heal this one person, right? Be in the middle where you can heal, you know, as many people as possible at a moment's notice. Don't stand a mile away, so like there's no reason to be all the way back here when you could be right here and just make everything easy on yourself, right? Fast reactions. Overall, that was probably about lower end of medium. And then finally, we got awareness. Pay attention to teammates' health bars. Pay attention to where are your teammates at? Because there are a lot of times where we just would only notice our one teammate. Don't angle your camera down. Look straight forwards. Make sure you're not staring at your pocket target. So if your whole team is right here and this is who we're pocketing, don't just do this and this and this, right? Or even do this, right? Don't do that either. You can still see most of what you need to know by looking this direction, right? And then we swap when we need to. So therefore, you know, don't stare at them. You can look at them. That's fine. Besides that, watch kill feed, 1 to 2, advantage or disadvantage, 2 to 3, won or lost fight. Just pay attention to that. Don't stagger yourself by, so when you've lost the fight, get out if you can. If you can't, let them kill you. General, pay attention to where the enemy team is as well, so they're not sneaking up on us. I think generally we did a I think paying attention to your team is a tad bit more important in that game, but it's still important to pay attention to the enemy team. Eyeball the reses. I think that's mainly it. So put that all in order. Aware. Oh, and then that was like a medium high, right? Or higher end of that, right? So to put that all in order, number 1, awareness. Number 2, probably like ability usage. 3 is probably going to be like your beam usage, or I guess positioning is 3, and then 4 is beam usage, and then 5 is ult usage. Overall, the big main one was awareness. That's what I put most of your attention and energy into. Not sure if you've heard me say this before, but how you improve at things is put the attention and focus into it. Right? You're going to be able to improve at awareness if you're intentionally thinking about your awareness.
Just one thing at a time. Don't try to go in there and do absolutely everything, because you can't focus on priority, positioning, and everything else like that. Just try to focus on one thing at a week and kind of keep going at it from there, right?
Yep. One thing. Just focus on the category, or if awareness is a pretty big category. So if that's too much, narrow it down. Pick out a couple things. Like say, okay, I'm gonna focus on paying attention to my teammates and their health bars, and that's it. Right, and not all of awareness, just those 2, or teammates and health bars and enemy team, and just be aware of people individually, right? That sort of thing, that sort of idea. So just narrow it down, try to work on those, improve at it.
Okay.
Any questions?
It's kind of not on the topic of Mercy, but also since they're going to be switching over to Overwatch 2 and they're dropping down to 5v5, I know that Zarya works really well with other tanks too. Do you feel that her role may be a little bit less important than some of the other tanks whenever she goes into it too, like for the open queue for Overwatch 2?
So Zarya...
right now I'm trying to figure out if I want to try to start learning either Zarya or maybe try to do Reinhardt or another kind of like a lower skill character compared to like Wrecking Ball or someone that has like a ton of other abilities that kind of just get overwhelming for me to use.
Okay. I think as of the current moment, Overwatch 2 is something that I need to catch up with a lot and put and go and I want to play it a ton when it comes out, just so that I can get good at it and know it as well. And I'm just gonna do a ton of research. As of my current understanding, I don't think that Zarya is gonna be too bad. I think that she is pretty decent. In fact, I think at one point she was actually overpowered in Overwatch 2. So I honestly, I would be probably fine with it, especially at your rank. Character pick's not going to matter, if I'm going to be quite honest. Like, who you're picking as a character is not, like, it might be maybe slightly easier if you pick a better character, but really a lot of it's going to come back down to how are you playing. Character pick in general is not a all-encompassing important thing until you get to team play, or maybe at, like, the very heights of top 500, and that's about it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just learning the game more sounds like it's going to be the best thing. I probably what I want to do, I'm probably going to see if I can try to keep up like the coaching with you too, like maybe a month or something like that, because I really do want to try to invest more time with this and at least kind of learn at least another character or two whenever someone else picks Mercy on this stuff as well.
Yeah.
But at least this gives me a lot of good advice, information, kind of, I just want to see where I was messing up at and kind of what I'm doing. And I think that should at least kind of give me a good overall basis to kind of be able to hopefully work up and be more of an asset to the team at this point too.
100%. That sounds like a good plan to me. I will stop recording here.